Hey, what's up? Chris Weinert here. About to be starting a new channel on YouTube and just got on Twitter under the handle CWeinert21. The YouTube is Chris Weinert, and BitChute is brutal honesty, but I haven't really been able to upload on there in the last month or so, month and a half, so I really kind of gave up trying on that. I don't know if they were too large of videos or what. They want maybe 5-second videos and shorts. That's about all they'd let me upload on there. So I don't think I can get past like a minute and a half. Anyways, just want to comment about some of the stuff that I've been talking about for the last 5-10 years, for that matter. Mostly along the lines of Twitter. I just got on there first time on the platform and getting a feel for what's going on with that. I have to think that most of that traffic on there is a bunch of counterfeit accounts and being run by bots, or at least data mining companies, or possibly even Defense Department analytics groups. And the reason I say this is because, in the 90s they had a thing called Agenda 21. And basically they would really assess the population and their threat levels against the quote-unquote federal government. I always wondered how they would do that. And now I realize it's through social media, and people will voluntarily give this information when provoked and given outrageous circumstances, in the case of the Kabuki Theater through Washington, D.C. I talked about Elon Musk, too, being today's Howard Hughes and a deep state operative and somebody that is probably a bridge between the overworld, the underworld, the deep state, and the American public or the global public. He's probably closest to that I can think of. And, as far as past analogies to modern times, that would be the best way I could describe him. Definitely an occultist, definitely an insider, definitely a WEF groomed insider. And maybe they didn't go into such complicated grooming tactics back in the old days, but they had, Huguenot bloodlines and certainly training, conditioning, and fraternal initiations, things of the sort. And I would have to say that he's very much part of this occultist group. And you remember Howard Hughes, had all these companies and was a front man, and then he mysteriously disappears from the public scope in 1959. And nobody's seen the guy for 15 years before he supposedly died. There was definitely some weird stuff going on with him and that whole thing there. Mayhew being his handler in FBI, third, fourth in charge of the FBI, a big wig there, and certainly the Mormon Mafia as well, the Bain Consulting Groups, the Boston Brahmin. Basically the Mormons are an extension of the Anglican royal crown and their religious monks that are kind of like that. Very similar to the Jehovah's Witnesses for other racial demographics. And you can even say the same thing, to a lesser extent, but to a similar example would be with the Jews, where they would, perform the legal, the monetary, the administrative work, and even the programming, the social engineering work of the church for the longest time, handling the affairs of even kings too. This is why they were never really taxed. So they had a different form of taxation. They were allowed to run the port cities. They were allowed to print the money. They were allowed to be the scribes and the temple priests. This is exactly what they were doing with that and what they got from it and why they were used. From birth, these guys are disciplined operatives that really hold no loyalty except to their own kind. And they are basically like the spies of Joshua, sent to infiltrate just about every form of civilization, pretend like they're trying to help and serve the public, and certainly steering it towards its own self-destruction. I think Twitter is kind of a very similar situation with being a service for this, gaining the metrics and data mining people, finding out their proclivities, using the spyware of these digital technology devices, and compiling dossiers like in Pine Bluff, Utah, of all the citizens, and then using these metrics and analytics to target them or to even ascertain information from them. For example, I just got on Twitter and I got like 56 messages from a bunch of different Asian women that I've never met before that suddenly, because I follow them on Twitter, are sending me all these private direct messages. You get on their site, they got no tweets, they got the same picture, they got 14 different names, and they're maybe if they're not direct marketing for certain things, whether it's dating sites or adult stuff or whatever, or just data mining for that matter, and just getting your information, asking about you, what do you do, what do you like, these are ways that they're basically interacting with you, and I think through bots or maybe even through agents that are programmed to do this, or paid to do this, we should say. I think that that's very much part of the data mining operation that's going on here. And if you remember, Howard Hughes had something called Intertel. This thing was basically a parallel infrastructure of the CIA. It was the private sector's version of that. Most of the CIA agents, when they got fired for dereliction of duty, would come to work for Hughes and get 4 or 5 times their salaries from him, doing basically the same work. So yeah, this is the way the private sector uses these things without governmental oversight, but with government funding and basically funding of these things through the creation of debt, through the Federal Reserve and many of these congressional bills and acts, and certainly NGO money and dark money too. And not to mention that black market skunkworks money that funds a lot of these programs that have created this breakaway civilization and this parallel infrastructure of basically government powers without being government, the private sector, so to speak. And with this DARPA tech and the IP that comes out of this, the intellectual property is run by these privateers, but funded by the public as well, and certainly classified for the guise of national security, but then released to this group of insiders for the sake of surveilling the citizens that sponsored this stuff in the first place. So really disgusting and abhorrent and very creepy what has gone on here, not only with our energy, with our tax dollars, with our political discourse, and certainly with the monstrous collusory debt that is existing, $32 trillion, and then reapproved through the congressional debt ceiling deal and whatever. You know, they almost repeat history, you know, hand in hand, foot in foot. And what you're seeing now is a repeat of the 1930s all over again. This type of mania, this hysteria, this absurdity in terms of extremism in politics. And certainly the censorship and certainly the thug tactics, using different ethnic groups to serve as domestic instability agents and funding them. And certainly the law enforcement agencies are programmed to look the other way, and in many cases infiltrate these very organizations with their own insiders to create and to accelerate these domestic disturbances and instabilities for the sake of budgetary reward, and certainly for the sake of in my opinion, creating the order out of the chaos that they create, you know, the controlled chaos. Because there is a natural outrage that will exist from most of these transgressions, the complete betrayal of the American constituents by their politicians, the debt, the squandering of their pension, the taxation on everything they do, and still somehow we're $32 trillion in debt, and still somehow, you know, these assholes can't talk about a single thing that'll help the American people. How many American people have gone homeless? How many small businesses have been ruined? How much predatory lending is there? How much have they doubled the interest rates in the past year or two? How much money have they printed in the last 3 years? Who is this money going to? And better yet, how is this being foisted on as some sort of a thing against the middle class that took $1,000, $2,000, a few $1,000s in the time of the lockdowns as being the sole purpose for A, people not wanting to work, B, the economy faltering, C, the massive debt, D, the instability and the political chaos. You know, these are all things that are being absolutely manufactured, and they're certainly not accidental happenstance or byproducts of the course of natural actions. So I know I'm talking a little bit fast. I'm trying to get this video in as much info as I can in as short a time. So, yeah, I think that really, you know, Twitter is part of the whole apex of data mining, and, you know, Facebook, YouTube, Google, all this stuff. You're seeing what it's absolutely meant to do. And I'll tell you, anybody that has any good points on Twitter, they're probably just talking to themselves out there and just fueling their own dossier to be used against them. Anything you say can and will be used against you, and that's probably the whole purpose of social media in the first place. I know that people need to be warned about what's going on, but for the most part, it's just like voting. If the people in control of who sees your comments or who sees your stuff flip off a switch, just like your vote, and they flip your vote, you know, it's the same damn thing. It's the same damn process, the same damn outcome, and the same damn people behind it. So you look at these things, people, I think there's really no way you can vote your way out of this this situation. I don't think there's any way that you can count on the legal system or the political system to make this right. The financial system is very much behind this, and like I say, it's the turning out of 7 billion debt slaves and the departmentalizing them by nation states, and then turning them against each other by certain things, whether it's nation state, race, religion, whatever, on and on, sexual preference, gender, whatever. So yeah, it's amazing to see this going on. It's amazing to see how this culture debasement and monetary debasement has led to such debauchery. and has accelerated such polarities in terms of majorities and things of the sort. The whole purpose of democracy is not to serve the will of the majority. It is basically to foist the culpability, the accountability onto a perceived majority that will then be targeted by the minority and the disenfranchised. So the whole game is playing the caste system against the caste system while you really reside the culprits above and beyond suspicion. So yeah, it's amazing stuff. You know, you think all these people running the streets and doing the stuff with BLM and Antifa are just natural organic movements. You're full of shit. And I'll tell you, most of these people are being directed by community leaders and NGOs that are being heavily funded to do what they're doing. Most of these immigrants coming in are being directed by these very same forces, organized forces, private, dark, black money that's coming through. And I'm not talking racial money. I'm talking about money that is not seen on the scope of Congress. Well, actually, none of it's seen on the scope of Congress since FASB 56. So, I mean, that should tell you what Congress's role is with this, too. When they're covering up, you know, these type of trillions a year in funding and appropriations, it's probably for a good, bad reason. And I think that they're very much in on it and very much part of it. And really their whole point is to point you in the misdirection over there so that you will take it out on the most convenient of scapegoats, and certainly absolve the true conspirators and the people that are truly behind these sinister dispossession tactics and depopulation agendas. So 11 minutes, there you go. Hopefully this thing will make it through, and just want to pop in and try my luck on the new YouTube channel, and well, I'll see if this goes up on BitChute too, and maybe even try to get it on Twitter. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I know I don't have any subscribers yet, but maybe that'll change. Thanks.